The room went silent the moment the princess pointed at me. 40 pairs of eyes turned in my direction, and I felt the weight of every single one. I was standing near the entrance of the conference hall, where I had been standing for 2 days straight, doing nothing but watching the door. That was my job. Nobody was supposed to notice me. Nobody ever did. Until now. Princess Ethereal of the Veiled Dominion crossed the room slowly, her long silver robes trailing behind her like smoke. Her guards followed a few steps back, watching everything with sharp, careful eyes. She stopped in front of me and looked me up and down, the way someone looks at an object they are deciding whether to buy. "This is the soldier your people sent to protect the delegation?" she said. Her voice was calm, but there was an edge to it, the kind of edge that comes from someone who has never once been told no. A man who stands by doors all day. A few of the younger nobles behind her laughed softly. I said nothing. I had learned a long time ago that silence was often the safest response. The peace talks between Earth and the Veiled Dominion had been going on for 2 days, and every hour of it felt like walking across thin ice. 2 years earlier, our two sides had come dangerously close to war. Ships had gathered on both sides of the border. Diplomats had failed. It was only through luck, patience, and a lot of quiet effort that both sides agreed to sit down at this table instead of firing the first shot. I was not part of the talks. I was just a guard. My job was simple: stand near the door, stay alert, and make sure nothing went wrong. But apparently, standing near the door was enough to catch the wrong kind of attention. "Your species talks so much about strength," the princess continued, turning to address the room instead of me now. "You tell stories about your wars, your victories, your discipline. And yet, when I look at your finest example, I see a man who has never even earned a title worth mentioning." She smiled, clearly enjoying the moment. "Perhaps your reputation is bigger than your reality." More laughter. Quiet, polite, the kind used in rooms like this to avoid looking rude while still enjoying someone else's discomfort. I kept my eyes forward and my hands steady. This was not the first time someone had underestimated me, and it would not be the last. People saw a uniform without stars, a face without medals on display, and they assumed there was nothing more to see. That assumption had kept me safe for a long time. It let me do my work quietly, without questions, without attention. I preferred it that way. But the princess was not finished. "Let us make this interesting," she said, turning back to me with a playful glint in her eyes. "A simple test. If this soldier can show me even a small measure of the discipline your people boast about, I will personally wear your colors at the closing dinner. If he cannot, Earth's delegation will offer a formal apology for its tone during these talks." A small, careless bet between a bored princess and a man she saw as nothing more than furniture. It should have stayed that way. Then I noticed the reaction from across the room. Ambassador Grace Bennett, who had been sitting quietly through the entire exchange, went pale. Beside her, General Threll of the Ashanari delegation straightened in his chair, his eyes locking onto me with an intensity that had not been there a moment before. The Ashanari were old allies of Earth, and they had fought beside us during a conflict that very few people were allowed to speak about. A conflict called the Kryn Collapse. Officially, the Kryn Collapse was a short operation where Earth forces helped contain a dangerous, self-replicating machine network before it could spread further into populated systems. That was the story in the records, carefully written to be short, calm, and forgettable. Unofficially, it had been 14 months of the hardest fighting most people could imagine, ending in a single, desperate stand that no government on either side wanted made public. I knew this because I had been there. I was the last member of my unit still standing when it ended. My name had been kept out of every report since, not because anyone was ashamed of what happened, but because certain truths are safer left buried. General Threll leaned toward his aide and whispered something. The aide's face lost all its color in an instant. Word does not travel fast in a room like this. It travels immediately. The princess, still caught up in her own performance, had not noticed the shift yet. "Well, soldier, do you accept the wager, or will you simply stand there in silence?" I could have stayed quiet. Silence had worked for 6 years, but the room had already changed around me, and pretending otherwise would only make things worse for everyone holding their breath. "Your Highness," I said, keeping my voice level and calm, "I would rather not take this wager. Her eyebrows rose slightly. Is that humility, soldier, or fear? Neither, I said. Just experience. I have learned that when people ask someone like me to prove what I am capable of, they often regret asking before I am finished. I do not think either of us wants that today. It was not a threat, I made certain of that. My tone stayed even. My posture relaxed. Nothing she could point to and call disrespectful. Just a quiet man declining a game he had no interest in playing. But General Threll did not hear a simple refusal. He heard confirmation of something he had only suspected. He rose slightly from his seat and spoke 2 words, loud enough for the princess to hear. The collapse. 2 words. I watched them land across the room like a stone dropped into still water. The princess's guards had grown up hearing the same careful, edited version of history that everyone else had, but General Threll's people had lived through the parts that never made it into any official record. I saw the moment the pieces connected behind her eyes, the quiet soldier by the door, the forbidden campaign nobody discussed. The reason Earth's proposals during these talks had been accepted faster than anyone expected, even by delegations known for arguing over every small detail for weeks at a time. Her composure did not break completely, but her hand, resting lightly on the arm of her chair, tightened just slightly. You, she said quietly now, the playfulness gone from her voice, are supposed to be a story, a legend told to frighten young officers in training halls across other systems. I am supposed to be a lot of things I am not anymore, Your Highness, I said. Mostly, I am tired of standing by doors while people guess wrong about who I am. She studied me for a long moment, searching for something, maybe pride. Maybe the need to be recognized that so many soldiers in her own culture carried openly. She did not find it. That seemed to unsettle her more than General Threll's whispered words had. Why did you not correct me sooner? She asked, and for the first time, there was something almost gentle in her question. Not fear exactly, curiosity. Because none of that matters here, I answered. What matters is what happens in this room, today. You mocked a soldier standing near a door. That is all this was ever meant to be. I would like it to stay that way, if that is acceptable to you. Your people came here to build peace. I would rather they leave with a treaty than with a story to tell. The room stayed silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the princess lowered her head, not deeply, not quite an apology, but something close to respect, a gesture her culture rarely offered to anyone outside their own royal line. Sergeant, she said, using my rank for the first time since she had entered the room, I withdraw the wager. Thank you, Your Highness. She turned to leave, then paused and looked back at me one more time. For what it is worth, I do not believe your people's reputation is bigger than their reality. I believe I simply misjudged which reality I was looking at. She did not wear Earth's colors at the closing dinner 2 nights later. She did not need to. The treaty between our 2 peoples was signed a full 2 days ahead of schedule, faster than anyone in either delegation had expected. General Threll shook my hand afterward, a gesture of deep respect among his people, one rarely given to outsiders. Nobody wrote a report about what almost happened in that hall. No medal was added to my file. I returned to standing near doors, watching quietly, doing the same work I had always done. And the story of that afternoon stayed exactly where the truth of the Kryn collapse had always lived, spoken only among the small number of people across the galaxy who understood one simple truth. The most dangerous person in any room is rarely the one who wants to be noticed. It is almost always the quiet one standing by the door.